Good afternoon. The board is just returned from closed session and no action was taken. But now I will call this meeting to order at 6:36. And roll call, Mr. Bell is here.
Yes, present.
Carol is here,
Yes.
Finley is here, Ku is absent, and Diaz is here. Dr. Emerson.
Superintendent and staff are present. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And I will ask Mrs. Carol if please she lead us in a flag salute.
Yes, can everyone stand up? Right hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Finlay, second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? Any opposition? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any requests to address the board?
There are no requests to address the board, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Emerson. Moving to presentations. Dr. Emerson.
Thank you, Madam President, and members of the board and community. Tonight, the board will engage in a study session. It is a presentation that, it's a discussion that will continue our work with respect to the consolidation of Andres Duarte Arts Academy. And so tonight, for the board's discussion, there will be a report that was compiled by the district's consulting firm, which is Total School Solutions. Dr. Joe Pandolfo will be here to take the board through the report as well as entertain questions. Also, the district's legal counsel, Serene Abrahamian, is also present and here and available to answer questions. And so at this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Joe Pandolfo to come forward and present the boundary change study and scenarios related to the closure of Andres Duarte. Dr. Pandolfo.
Okay, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. I want to mention too, on the phone, we also have Tahir Ahad, who is the president of Total School Solutions, who did a lot of the hands-on work. So if there's questions, you'll be able to ask him directly as well. So, excuse me a second. Okay. Maybe I can borrow that handheld microphone again. Can I borrow that from somebody? One, two, three, test. Okay. All right, so here we have our report on the school closure, and the purpose of the report is to take a look at options to redistribute the current enrollment of Andres Duarte's elementary school within the district. When our firm does work like this, we're looking at several factors, and we really try to have an understanding of the district, what the district goals are, what some of the challenges of the district, what some of the natural boundaries are for the districts, what the capacity for the district are, where are the transfer students coming from, and other nuances that are particular to every school and every district. So we looked at a lot of scenarios, and at this point we have whittled this down to what we think are 4 reasonable scenarios that I'll go through tonight. And this, what I'm going to do is just walk you through the report and highlight, especially what we're going to focus on is tables and maps, because that's the tables where the data is, and that's interesting. And then the maps kind of give you a visual graphic. And if there's questions that are more refined than what our map shows, we can jump to the school finder map on the district website and take a look at that too, if need be. Okay, so this is the K6, K8 school boundary map for the school district. And, it's like most school districts, a district isn't a perfect rectangular square. It's got a lot of jaggedness to it, and, the boundaries evolve over time, and that's what they have been probably for quite some time now. And, you can see on this map, there's major intersections. You can see some irregularities, what I would say with some of the, the boundaries. So those are interesting to take a look at. But this is what the current boundary is. And what we're focusing on is that center section, which is the pink, which is Andres Duarte's elementary school boundaries. So this table on this chart breaks up the 21-22 K-8 enrollment into areas. So basically, if you read the text in this area, it's basically breaking up into 3 major areas, and then some of the major areas are also subdivided into smaller areas as well. And that's just due to some of the logistics and some logical decisions that were made in terms of how to divide things up. So the Area 1 boundary is Huntington Drive to the north, I-605 to the west, and the city limits to the east and south. Okay, so that's pretty straight ahead. Area 2 is bounded by Huntington Drive to the north, Highland Avenue to the west, I-605 to the east, Duarte Road, Bullitt to the south. Area 2 has been further divided into 2 sub-areas. So this is what I was saying, that some of them are a little bit more nuanced. So there's a 2A and a 2B. The 2A lies above the freeway, and 2B is the area below the freeway, 210. So that's so some of the scenarios subdivide section 2 as they do section 3 too. So it's section 3 is bounded by East Highland Avenue, by Duarte Road at the south, the city limit in the west, by the 210 on the north, by Pops Road in the west, and then by the northern boundary of the California School of the Arts in the north, then by the eastern boundary of Pop subdivision at the west. So there won't be a test on that, but that's obviously that boundary is a little bit more complicated than the rest. Okay, and then those boundaries are subdivided. 3A includes a piece of the area of Pops Road. Subdivision 3B includes part of the area that is between Pops Road and Buena Vista Avenue. And sub area 3C includes a part of the area 3 west of Buena Vista. So there's a 3A, B, and C. So, and as we go on the study, you'll see as we show the maps that will kind of make more sense to you probably. If you look at the table below, that's where I mentioned we break up the enrollment. And you can see it's done by areas and by grade level. So you can see the K6. If you start on the left, for instance, you can see Duarte Area 1. Read across the table, you can see the grade levels. So for instance, Duarte Area 1 has 7 kinders in it, and Duarte Area 2 has 8. And then as you go across, there's the grade levels, a subtotal, and then the 7, 8 are on the right side, and then you have the totals in the bottom. So that's how that table works. And with a total of 304, students that were distributed. And as we all know, the enrollment is always a moving target because students can move anytime during the year. Okay. So then this next section starts going to some specific alternatives. And this is alternative 1. And you can see on this one that on this table, the way to read this is that the 2021 enrollment for the 4 schools goes across the first, goes vertically across the table. And then as you go down, you start breaking up the school enrollment from Andres Duarte School, and based on how they're divided, then the numbers total. And you can see at the very bottom it says post-transfer enrollment. So for instance, if Beardsley had 428, after all the transfers on this scenario, they have 533, and then 507 for Maxwell, Royal Oaks 891, and 433. So let me see if I let's see. Hold on one second. I'm looking for the yeah, so the bottom here summarizes, thank you. Except I need to move it down now. The resident students, so Beardsley in this scenario receives 49 students from Andres Duarte from 3A and 3B, and Maxwell gets 11 from 3C, and Royal Oaks receives 78, 13 students from Andres Duarte, Area 1, and 65 from 2A. and Valley View receives 52 from Andreas Duarte Area 1. So you can see in this scenario, there's a good chunk of students moving north. And let's see where the map is for this. Here we go. So here's a map for alternate 1 scenario. So you can see that how that's divided up. You can see there's still a section of Beardsley that's north of the freeway, a little cutout in there with this section. That's alternate 1. And then this is alternate 2. And on this section, this will transfer area 1 K6 students to Valley View. There's 52 of them. This will transfer area 1 7-8 students to Royal Oaks. This will transfer K8 students to Royal Oaks in sub area 2A. In 2B, which is 0, will transfer to Beardsley. 3A and 3B students, K8 will go to Beardsley. And then in area 3C, K8 students to Maxwell. The transfers current Royal Oaks area between Pops Avenue and Mountain Avenue that lies between Huntington Drive and 210 Freeway to Beardsley. So that section will go to Beardsley. Then assigns the interdistrict students 78 to Beardsley, 20 to Beardsley, 46 to Maxwell, 12 to Valley View, which is a total of 78. Okay, and the interdistrict transfers are assigned to Maxwell in this scenario. And the PO box numbers are to Beardsley, because sometimes there isn't an address on some occasions for students. So if you look at the table for alternative 2 with that scenario, you can see the distribution on here. You can see that that would increase Beardsley's enrollment to about 538, and Maxwell to about 538. They would be equal. And then Royal Oaks would increase to 855. It was already at 813, at least in year 21. And Valley View would increase to 433. Okay, so that is alternative 2. Okay, and then this is the map of alternative 2 with those areas as described before subdivided. Okay, so then we move on to alternative 3. So in this area, area 1 from Duarte is moved to Valley View for K6, and for 7-8, area 1 is moved to Royal Oaks. Then we have area 2, K8 students to Beardsley. And then for 3A and 3B, the K students also go to Beardsley. And then in the sub area 3C, K8 students, 11 of those go to Maxwell. So the transfer of the current Royal Oaks between Pops Avenue and Buena Vista that lies between Huntington Drive and the 605 freeway, the K8 students, which is only 16 to Beardsley. And then transfer current Royal Oaks area between Buena Vista and Mountain Avenue that lies between Huntington Drive and 605 freeway, K8 students, and there are 20 of those to Maxwell. And then the intra-district students from Duarte, there's again 78 of those, and 20 will go to Beardsley in this scenario, 46 to Maxwell, 12 to Valley View. Inter-district transfer students, 31 would be assigned to Maxwell, and then the PO boxes to Maxwell. So if we look at this table, then we can see that the Beardsley and Maxwell are still pretty close in terms of enrollment. Royal Oaks, with the boundaries being withdrawn, is a little bit smaller, and then Valley View picks up, about 64 students in this scenario, and that's alternative 3.
Joe, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So in this table here for alternative number 3, what does the 23 in parentheses mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a good point. So 23, in accounting, instead of putting a negative number, it's often in parentheses. So that just means it's going down. So by redrawing these boundaries and changing the Royal Oaks boundaries, in this scenario, there'd be 23 students who are currently assigned to Royal Oaks who would be reassigned to another school.
I see. Thank you.
And I just, one quick, just what's a PO box? What's the PO box?
Yeah, so in some cases, like sometimes if students, for instance, are homeless, they don't have an address, so the district will assign them a PO box, is my understanding anyway, as the district practice, okay? Tahir, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, about the 23, the number they asked for, negative number 23.
Yeah, I'll have
These
to.
are not the.
Go ahead.
This is not about the 23 kids moving out of Royal Oaks. If you look at the notes under the table, this 23 is minus 23 is made of three numbers. It's gains 13 students from Andres Duarte area 1, which are the 7-8 kids.
Yeah.
Sorry, 13 kids from area 1, and then it loses 23 kids because the current southwestern area transferred to Beardsley and Maxwell.
Okay, so Dr. Finlay, I'm going to clarify what I just said. So there's a note actually in the bottom of this table, the second to last note, and it says Royal Oaks loses a net of 23 students, which is a negative number there. It gains 13 students from Andreas Duarte area 1, so it's picking up 13 more, but it loses 36 students because of its current southwest area transfer to Beardsley and Maxwell. Okay, so that's the correct answer. It isn't all a loss. There's a trade-off there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and here's our map of alternative number 3. And then the final one, we have alternative number 4, and just bear with me as I just read the details on this again too, because I think it's important to kind of understand what's changing here. So for area 1, the K6 students, 52 would go to Valley View in this scenario, and the area 1 7A students, 13 to Royal Oaks. Then in area 2, K8 students would be 65 to Beardsley. And then sub area 3A and 3B, the K students, which there are 49 of them, to Beardsley. And then sub area 3C, the KA students, 11 would go to Maxwell. And then there will be a transfer of the current Royal Oaks area between Papa Avenue and Buena Vista that lies between Huntington Drive and the 605 freeways. The K8 students, 16 would go to Beardsley. And then the transfer, the Royal Oaks area between Buena Vista and Mountain Avenue that lies between Huntington Drive and the 605 freeway, K8 students would be transferred to Maxwell. The Beardsley Southwest Extension area that currently has K8 students, and there's 45 of them, would go to Maxwell. And then the interdistrict students, and again, total 78, that doesn't change. Beardsley would get 20, Maxwell 46, and Valley View 12. And Andreas Duarte interdistrict transfer students, 31 would go to Beardsley, and the PO boxes would go to Beardsley in this scenario. So I'll scroll down. And here's the table for alternative 4. So you can see when you start reassigning the students in this way with this method, the Beardsley has 569, Maxwell 572, so very close. Royal Oaks is a little bit smaller, and then Valley View is a little bigger at 433. So that's the 4th alternative. And then this is the map for the 4th alternative. So you can notice too the unusual shaped section of Beardsley that was in the Maxwell area has been cleaned up on this map. It's straightened, more logical. And then the Beardsley and Maxwell boundaries are further north of the highway on this map as well. And then the rest of this report goes over this, reviews a real property advisory committee, which we've called and reviewed in previous meetings. And then it recaps the meetings this current year that talked about all the outreach and that was done for the community. And then there's appendix about, that shows different enrollments by, address. When a demographer goes through this, that's obviously looking at where the students are living to determine, how many people are in each area. So that's what these tables are all about down here. Okay. So that's the report. Let me just ask Tahir Ahad if he has anything to add that maybe I may have missed. Tahir, did you want me to, did I miss anything that you want to comment on?
So basically, this was.
I'll just answer any question you may have.
He said he'll be available for questions, as am I. So that is the boundary presentation.
Okay, board members, are you ready for questions?
Madam President, can I make a comment?
Please, Dr. Emerson.
I'd like to turn the board's attention to page 10 of the report. And I think it's important to really hone in on the methodology and the considerations. And so I do want to just read this paragraph because I think it's important. So Andrews Duarte student transfer alternatives, consideration of student transfer alternatives were based on the Andrews Duarte school enrollments, the available unused capacities at the other district K6, K8 schools, as demonstrated in the sections above, home to school distances, balancing enrollment amongst the K6, K8 schools other than Royal Oaks, balancing enrollment between north and south regions of the districts, access to school, including freeway underpasses, avoiding major traffic arteries, reaching enrollment at each school to possibly reduce the number of combination classrooms, and enhance programmatic opportunities and offerings for students. So that was a major underpinning of all of the analysis and all of the work as we were trying to work with the consultants to give feedback on how we could look at potential boundary alternatives and options. So I just wanted to make sure that was a part of our discussion as well.
Thank you, Dr. Emerson. Okay, board, it's time for us to have, if we have any questions.
I guess I'll start. Going with the transfers of Andrews Duarte, for instance, the parents right now, and we're closing the school. Now, saying that we are, depending on what number we pick, we decide to go with. But these parents also have an option, meaning if they don't like where they're going to end up going, they can put in a transfer to go to another. They have an option.
Yeah, so I'll have staff answer that question, Vice President Carroll. So I'd ask Mr. Crosby, you could share with the board and community again, our intra district transfer process.
And how it works. That would be great.
Thank you, board member CC Carroll. The intra-district transfer process. First, we get the boundaries of each school site. So if a parent right now says they want to go to one particular school, they might be in that boundary and they won't need a intra-district transfer. But just like we did every single year, if someone wants to go from one school site to another school site, they file an intra-district transfer. And depending on space and availability, we honor those transfers. Very few we have to deny, and it's because of timing and amount of space that's in there. But if there's space in this school, we allow our school transfers in. And so normally that timeline is in March, but we'll be extending it this year because of this process we're doing right now as well. And as soon as this process is done, is we're going to set that timeline and send that out to all of our parents so they understand what the timeline is. But we're extending it because of this process has to be completed first.
Okay, so parents will have a chance to, if they're hearing this now and they're panicking about, it's not panicking, but, worrying about it. And so there'll be some kind of some letter or something sent to them or a meeting.
We will do it through all of our communication that we have done in the previous two, through our Parent Square, through on our website, and it's all through our student services section.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you,
Dr.
Madam
Clement.
President. So, and this is probably for Mr. Crosby as well. So for with these boundaries changing Andrews Duarte's boundaries are not the only ones that are changing. What would happen with a family that is currently in one school boundary and with the change in boundaries, they are assigned somewhere else? Do they have to move schools?
If they are current students, we allow them to remain at that site throughout till that they move on to the next level. And we will always want to keep students and their families where they're currently at.
Thank you.
Mr. Bell, do you have any question, comment?
From a timeline point of view, what are we looking at as far as our approval to make this concrete? What are you looking at?
So tonight we wanted to have this conversation where we shared the alternatives and we shared the options with the board. We have currently scheduled a special meeting on Tuesday, February the 22nd. And at that meeting, based on the discussion that we have tonight and the feedback that we received from the board, it is my intention to work with staff and council and our consultants to make a recommendation to the board for consideration on Tuesday, the 22nd. Once we do that, if the board supports the recommendation on Tuesday, then we would immediately work through our communications channels to immediately start to advise parents, community members of the change of the new maps. We would work with our current custodian of this information, which is Davis Demographics, to upload this, to have it on our school finder, to make sure that parents could then use that as a technology tool to figure out what their school of assignment is going to be. We would then also start to work with our principals on the transition process for students and families and also staff, because the components that are at play here is that this will impact students and their families as well as staff members who are currently occupying our Andrews Duarte campus.
Thank you.
Sorry, another question. So it looks to me like two of the maps here, trying to see. So it looks like, I think alternatives 3 and 4 sort of use as a boundary, the northern boundary for Beardsley. Is that Royal Oaks Drive, if I'm looking at that correctly?
No, sir, that's Huntington Drive.
That's Huntington. Okay. So that would, I mean, I think it's nice to think that families won't have to cross over Huntington if at all possible. So I'm assuming that was something that was taken into consideration, crossing major streets and whatnot.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I would expand on that, Dr. Finley, to say when you look at each of the maps, there was very, very specific landmarks across the city that we were really trying to honor. And so even in some of the current lines that are already in place, that we wanted to make sure we kind of continue to keep in place. So you'll see Las Lomas, which is right there for the Valley View and Royal Oaks line. So didn't touch that. You'll see Huntington Drive directly kind of across the entire district, which touches all 4 of the boundaries. And so you see that straight line. You see the diagonal crossing line, that's the 605. And so we wanted to have that be a clean line. You'll see it's a little bit harder to notice, but Highland is also not necessarily I'm looking at alternative 3, which is on the screen right now. Highland isn't clearly noted on here, but Highland was also something that was considered in other scenarios. Buena Vista, you'll see the L in Beardsley, that's Buena Vista. That line that goes right up there, that's Buena Vista's line. And then the hard line you see all the way to the far west, that's Mountain. And so we were just trying to make logical sense of where these breaks would be. And so you see that in alternative 3. But we've tried to keep that as consistent as possible in most of the alternatives. So that's just something else for the board to consider.
Any other comment? Right now, like the students that attend from Andres Duarte to either Royal Oaks or Valley View, do they walk The ones who walk, they walk through Las Lomas, or what streets are the one that they? No, not Las Lomas, is that? Yeah. The microphone first? Yeah,
The one
The
going
one on
across
Huntington.
Huntington on Las Lomas, crossing over with
They would
7-Eleven.
go up Las Lomas.
Las
Yeah.
Lomas, right?
They'd go up
Okay.
Las Lomas. I mean, that would be one option. The next nearest would be Mount Olive.
Okay,
But I mean, that would be for Royal Oak students, but the Valley View students would go up Las Lomas. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. The meeting on Tuesday is Tuesday, right?
Yes,
Is that at 7 p.m.?
yes, we are scheduling that meeting is going to be at 7. And one of the things that I think will be helpful for myself and for staff, as well as our support team, is any additional questions or any additional thoughts or insights that members of the board have. We know that you'll be digesting this information over the next 24, 48 hours. As those questions come up, I obviously am always available to you, but get those to me as soon as possible, so that way we can, as we can work with Dr. Pandolfo and Mr. Ahad to address, tinker, adjust the maps, or offer some additional insights as necessary. But again, it is our hope and intention to make that recommendation to you all on Tuesday.
Since this meeting, coming up meeting is a special board meeting, what channels are we using to advertise this meeting, this board meeting?
I apologize, Madam President. Can you
that's
repeat
okay.
that one more time?
Since the meeting on Tuesday is a special board meeting, what kind of information or channels are we using to reach parents for them to be here? The ones that are, interested in this
Yeah,
information.
absolutely. So we'll continue to do the legal posting of information, but we'll also use Parent Square. We'll also use other communication channels to advise folks that there is going to be that special meeting. And again, I think that the board president has been very clear that since it's going to be a decision-making and an important piece, we'll do that at a 7 o'clock meeting. There will be a 6 o'clock closed session that will happen, and then the 7 o'clock meeting is at Duarte High School.
At
So Duarte High School, this facility is not available, so we'll make sure to clearly communicate that out to the community, so they show up at the right place for the right meeting.
So I probably will go and I will ask Leonor to make sure that, reach the parents that speak Spanish, to tell them that it's not going to be here, that it's going to be at the high school, and that's the library.
In the library, that's correct.
In the library. And, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that since it's not special board meeting, everyone needs to know where to go. Okay, and for the public who just speak Spanish, to know that we do have a translator every board meeting, and so we'll be having a translator on also the meeting on Tuesday. Thank you, Leonor.
It is my understanding that Leonor will support us with translation on Tuesday. Yes.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes,
Another
Dr.
quick
Finlay?
question. So with all of these proposed scenarios, none of these will require any additional construction at the receiving campuses. Is that correct?
I would ask Dr. Pandolfo, if you don't mind asking Mrs. Abraham if she can come up and answer that, because there is legal provisions with respect to CEQA. So I think Serene is going to come up.
Good evening, board. Thank you for having me tonight.
And sorry, if you wouldn't mind just reminding us all what CEQA stands for and what it means and everything, that would be very helpful.
Yes, so under the California Environmental Quality Act, which was something that was analyzed at length for the closure process, the project, as described, is the closure of Andres Duarte and the relocation of those students to receiving schools. So the analysis of whether the receiving schools can accept those students without there being an environmental impact is really the analysis that was done in the documents that were presented to the board, the resolution and supporting board item that walk through that analysis. The schools at issue here, so Andres Duarte, with its total enrollment, can be absorbed by the receiving schools that were identified in the resolution and in those documents without increasing the capacity of those schools. So there will not be an impact, an environmental impact. An environmental impact would occur if those schools' capacities were increased by 25% or 10 classroom facilities. And neither of those things are occurring in this as part of this process. The students from Andres Duarte would be relocated and could be absorbed within the existing capacities of the receiving schools. And under this map analysis that's being done now, all of that's been taken into consideration. And again, there's no increase of surplus space, classrooms, or any of that by 25% that would potentially have an environmental impact as a result of these students being transferred to those schools.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And just to add that, we're going to continue to rely on that analysis that was done for the closure as part of the analysis, the underlying CEQA analysis for the map consideration as well.
And if I can just add on to that's one of the primary things our firm looks at is, the capacity of the schools. And if the schools assign more students, is their capacity. And with the and this has also been, if you recall in previous presentations too, when we're doing different parts of our study, but the schools all have capacity to accept more students. And that's been taken into account of when this is looked at to ensure that the actual capacity is available there to transfer students from Andres Duarte to the other schools as we have in these scenarios. And this is actually done on page, I think it's page 9 of the report in the more conservative 25-to-1 surplus number is used because those are the smaller class size, and there's still a lot of capacity in the district.
Thank you. Any other comment? Anything else, Dr. Emerson?
I have a comment, but I want to defer to board members who have additional questions or comments.
Do you have any additional comments or
I might
questions?
just have a comment. Well, it has to do, I think Mr. Rosby might be able to help me. The teachers are going to have an impact too, moving to these campuses. So I'm sure it's going to be just depending on what map we pick, where the teachers are going to be spread out too. But in that case, teachers, I guess my question would be, how would that work, honestly? I mean, how would that, if we picked a map, for instance, like 2 or 3, are they going to get the classes they normally teach at Andrews, or does it work on seniority, or how does it work?
So you'll be getting an MOU at the next, hopefully the next board meeting that DEA and the district worked on together about displacement of teachers. But it's going to be based on enrollment where the students go. So you're developing the maps is the first step. So then we can plot where the students live in the school boundaries, where most likely those kids will eventually go to which schools. And then we'll look at each of those sites and add those students in, and then find out what positions that we have and open at each of those sites. And then we will provide that to the staff at Andres Duarte, the displaced teachers, and they will be able to choose from those positions. And then if only one person chooses, then that position will be theirs. If it's more than one person chooses a particular position, then it goes to a committee of teachers and administrators. And this is the same committee that we ran from our closure of Northview, and where we placed teachers where had multiple people on that site. So they give me 2 to 3 choices of what they want. And we tried to get everyone's first choice. The last time that we did it, we only had one person not get their first choice. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this time, but hopefully that's what will work out. But how we have to do is place it based on the numbers after the board makes the decision of the boundaries there. And that's why it's having the board meeting on next Tuesday. I know it's a quick turnaround, and it's a tough decision for the board to make on such a quick turnaround. But having that information so we can get it to parents and we can get it for staffing and where we can get the information to move our staff for next year.
All right, thank you.
Okay. No more? Are we done? Okay,
I have one.
go ahead, Dr. Emerson.
So I wanted to spend just a moment or two doing a little bit of unpacking on each of those scenarios, because there is no perfect map. Like I want to be just really, really abundant and clear. There's no perfect map. There are 4 scenarios of which I think all help us move in the direction that we need to take our school district. And so just some things to think about as we as you all evaluate the different alternatives. Alternative 1, the first alternative there, it creates the least impact on any other district boundary. It doesn't encroach on Royal Oaks. It doesn't encroach on Valley View. It doesn't encroach on Maxwell. It adds students to all 4 of those schools. The other 3 scenarios have some impact where there's encroachment on an existing boundary, which then leads into what do you do with those families that you potentially impact by changing those boundaries. However, scenario 1, it's not the best balance of north-south distribution of students. So there's your trade-off. It doesn't encroach as much, but it doesn't give us as much balance in disseminating and redistributing the students. So there's a trade-off. In all the other scenarios, there's a little bit of encroachment, but you get those numbers where we get back to, and we haven't said it yet, but I want to remind us, we talked a lot early in this process about kind of an optimal size for a school being in the 550 student range. And so there are scenarios that get us really close to that 550 range for both Beardsley and for Maxwell. And so I want the board kind of thinking through all those pieces, the encroachment, the balance, the dissemination of students, the travel, all those things are going to be a part of your deliberative process. I am available to you, as you all know, to walk you through any and all of these things as you kind of weigh this over the course of the next several days. But I just want you, just thinking there's no perfect map. So if you're looking for a perfect map, you're not going to find it here because it's not there. But also, these are good maps and good options that we can have. And it's just a matter of what is going to be of most comfort to you and what you can all support. And hopefully by having those conversations with you over the next several days, I'll have clarity around which one is best to recommend to you all. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Emerson. Okay, continuing with the board meeting. I think that I just need to adjourn the meeting. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Dr. Finlay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Special session is